Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Ticking Together. As always, the goal of this channel is to provide education about and to raise awareness as to what it's like living with Tourette Syndrome. In today's video, I thought I would talk to you guys a little bit about how it is to explain having tics and Tourette Syndrome to someone who might not really understand it from the traditional medical diagnosis of it's a neurological disorder, blah blah blah. I'm going to relate it to a metaphor and hopefully help you guys understand it a little bit more. For those of you new to my channel, my name is Carly. I'm 22 years old and I was diagnosed with Tourette Syndrome when I was 12 years old. And the goal of my channel is to basically break the stigma surrounding Tourette Syndrome and just educate you all on what it's like to live with it. Well, instead of explaining how Tourette's is a neurological disorder, I am going to dumb it down a little bit and relate it to something that you guys might understand. I feel like neurotypical people may not understand fully ever what it's like to tic because it is so, the feeling is just so bizarre. Like, it is crazy. It's so hard to explain, but I have found two metaphors that I think come close to maybe helping you guys understand what it's like to tic. So for me, ticking is embarrassing, it is frustrating, it is painful, it is so many things that I don't like, but I'm gonna try and help you guys understand it from the perspective of someone who doesn't have tics. I personally can't remember a time when I didn't have tics, but I can relate the feeling of other things to the feeling of having to tic, so let's get into that. The first metaphor which I like to explain to people who want to know what it's like to tic is basically that of a coughing metaphor. This is one of the clearest metaphors I have come up with regarding ticking and neurotypical people. So basically, imagine you are in a very important situation where your attention is fully required to get the full experience of what you're doing. So I always refer to like a movie theater or a lecture with your teacher or perhaps a interview with your boss. You just really want to be on your A game. You don't want to have any distractions. You just want to be on point. You want to get the full experience and your focus is necessary. So when you feel like you have to cough, you get that like really itchy feeling and it's like, oh, a cough is coming, especially when you're sick or when you have an irritated throat. You're like, you can tell when the cough is coming. And once you cough, you usually have to repeat it because your throat is still itchy, your throat is still not satisfied with the urge of coughing, and it's just a big ordeal of a lot of coughs. So back to being in an important scenario. Say you are in the middle of a movie and all of a sudden you feel that really itchy throat and you're like, I got a cough, but you're in the movie theater and there are hundreds of people around you watching the same movie. And if you were alone, you would cough because it doesn't interrupt people, but since you were in this theater surrounded by other people who are trying to get the same experience out of the movie, you try and hold in your cough because you don't want to distract them, you want them to have a fun time, and so you just try and hold it in. This could go for being in the interview with your boss or being in a lecture. You just don't want to distract people around you. You want to have your full attention on what you're supposed to be watching or listening to. But those of you that have had like a cold or a chest infection, for example, I don't know, you know that your throat gets really itchy and you're gonna have to cough. And so holding in a cough is difficult, especially when you're sick. And in order to feel better, you gotta get it out. So you let out one little cough, just one little one, and you think it's gonna be okay. But that didn't satisfy the urge in your throat and you're like, I gotta cough again. And so you cough again, just a little one, but that didn't help either. So then you cough again and everyone's kind of looking at you sideways like, what is she doing? She's coughing so much, like we're in a public place, we should be kind of cool, calm, collected. And you just keep coughing because your throat is so irritated. And like I said, if you were alone in your room, the coughing wouldn't be a problem because no one really cares when you're alone coughing. It just helps you and your throat feel better, so why wouldn't you cough alone? But when you're with a group of people, you prefer to keep it inside because you want them to get the full experience out of their endeavor as well. So this coughing and this itchy feeling in your throat is just not going away and you have to keep doing it, and it is just really, really annoying, and it's all you can think about. your movie climax is out the window, your conversation with the boss is out the window, your lecture is, you're not paying attention at all, you're just thinking about not coughing and your itchy throat. And you're trying to hold in these coughs because people, again, like I said, are like, what is she doing? This is kind of what it's like to have a tic, as basic as it sounds. The itchiness in your throat, or like the coughing urge, is basically the urge to have a tic, and when you feel that itch, you gotta cough eventually, and that's the same as an urge to tic. When you feel the urge in your body, wherever that may be, you're gonna have to eventually give in. Sure, you can stifle it for a little bit of time, but it eventually is going to come out. And the fact that people around you are frustrated is the same thing that happens to me when I tic in public. Like, for example, if I was in a movie theater, I would not want to be ticking because I don't want to distract people. When I do, they look at you sideways, just the same as if you were coughing. This goes to show that there is still a stigma surrounding Tourette syndrome, because with coughs, like, sure, it's a normal thing to cough, but with like full-on body movements, like, that's not normal. And if I was doing that in a theater or a lecture or an interview, people would be concerned. So I don't know if that made any sense, but basically the feeling you get in your throat before you're coughing, that irritation, that like, oh, I gotta cough, is kind of like how it feels to tic, but you'll have that sensation in literally any part of your body. So it's kind of weird. I don't know if that makes perfect sense, but just the feeling of that irritation and like, oh, I gotta do it, and the fact that you have to keep doing it until the irritation has gone away, that's kind of what it feels like to tic. The second metaphor which I use is a little bit less like understandable, it's a little bit stranger, but regardless, I'm gonna tell you guys. This metaphor is the itching or scratching metaphor. It doesn't work as well, but I'll just tell you guys anyway. So basically, the feeling of an itch in your arm or your back or wherever on your body, the feeling of an itch is irritating, and you're like, you gotta scratch it eventually. I know some people out there don't have to, but with me, if I'm itchy, I gotta scratch it. And so it's like, for example, again, if you're in an important situation where you're having to pay attention, a classroom, and you have a really itchy back, for example, say you can't reach the itch. You're trying to reach it, but it's just your arm isn't long enough and it's not working. And so your back becomes even more irritated. This one isn't like the coughing metaphor in the way that it doesn't really interrupt people, but it interrupts you and your brain, because all you can think about is your itchy back, your itchy arm, whatever's itchy on your body. It's all you can think about because you're irritated, you're annoyed, and you just feel like you have to fix it, and you have to move in a certain way, you have to scratch it a certain way in order to feel better. Sometimes when I have tics, it does feel like an itch, like it feels like, oh, I gotta scratch this. So sometimes when I scratch it, it kind of calms the urge for a little bit, but I eventually have to do it anyway. But I think this is another way to help people understand what it's like to tic, because basically the point I'm trying to get across is tics are annoying, and the urge to have them is something that cannot be controlled very well. Feeling like you have to like jerk your neck or something is the same as feeling like you have to have an itchy throat and cough. Like it's hard to explain, but if you can feel that, like that really irritated in your throat, and so you move it on your skin, but not really your skin, it's like in your brain, and like it's basically your whole body just feels uncomfortable, and you're like, I gotta tic. And like sometimes you don't even realize it, because with Tourette syndrome, like tics just happen and you can't really control them. And so when I'm suppressing them, like sure, I notice that like I'm gonna tic, so I have to stop and I have to redirect them. But when you feel that irritation, it's like so hard to control it. And in my past videos, you guys have seen, like, I don't tic a lot in the videos when I'm sitting down like this, because I'm focusing and I'm trying to get my point across. And when I sit here, like sometimes I don't tic. I am ticking a lot in this video for some reason. My tics have been kind of worse lately, so I don't know why. But anyways, that's just kind of a side note. I don't know where I was going with that. But the feeling of a tic is basically just irritating, and you have to give in to it. I know some people are going to comment being like, I can hold in my coughs, or I don't have to scratch my back when it's itchy. But I feel like a lot of people out there do have to cough or have to scratch their back when it's itchy because it's annoying, and you want to resolve that urge right away. And that's basically what it's like to tic. Another thing that people probably wouldn't relate to, I hope, is that sometimes for me tics feel like there are fire ants on my body, and it feels like it's like burning if I hold in a tic for a long period of time. So say I have a tic in my arm where I have to tense my arm, or a tic in my stomach where I have to tense my stomach, and I hold it in for a really long time, it gets like, it feels like my skin is burning to get this tic out. Like, it's like you cannot hold it in anymore, you need to get it out. And so typically on my back tics, for example, like that's where I feel like I have like burning sensations, and I don't know if this is normal. So if you're out there with a tic disorder or Tourette syndrome, I would love it if you would leave a comment telling me if you relate to that in the slightest, because it's really weird and it feels like nothing I could ever explain. Like the coughing metaphor doesn't relate to that, the itching metaphor doesn't relate to that. It is just bizarre. So I hope this kind of helped you understand Tourette syndrome and tics a little bit better, because relating them to like something that's normal, like a cough or an itch, might help you guys to like comprehend it a little more, maybe relate to it and understand that it's irritating and we don't want to do it, but we have to do it because the urge is just annoying. I'm going to end the video here, but thank you so much for watching. I would love it if you would give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment down below saying hi or telling me what you want to see in future videos, and subscribe to my channel. By subscribing to my channel, you guys can help me with my goal of breaking the stigma surrounding Tourette syndrome, because with your subscription and all of your help sharing my videos and just watching them and supporting me, you guys can help by learning and educating yourself and spreading the word, and hopefully together we can break the stigma. Thank you so much and have a great night.